What's up guys, it's your boy Big Arc with another WoW video. I'm back on my Shadow Priest today and I will be going in depth on how to play Shadow Priest, what you can expect from the class, a huge guide on how to do well when playing the class, and how to top the DPS charts every single time. However, before I do get into that, I want to thank every single one of you that has subscribed lately. I put out a couple videos and I've mentioned this a couple times before, but we are doing a WoW token giveaway at 250, 500, and 1,000 subs. We are currently just under 200 subs, which means we are just over 50 away from the first giveaway. So we're so close to doing that first draw, and all you have to do is subscribe. And if you like the videos, why not subscribe anyways? Now, getting into it, what I want to get into in general is just talk about the priest. So I'm going to go through what kind of playstyle it is, the mobility, mastery, and what to look out for, as well as taking into account the racials when choosing what race you want to play your priest on. So getting into it, one thing that I can compare a Shadow Priest to is an Affliction Warlock. If you've played a Shadow Priest before, you know that it is mainly just a lot of damage over time effect spells, combined with a couple filler spells, couple refresher spells, a few AOE spells, and mostly single target damage done. We're going to get into the specific spells and rotation later. I just want to briefly mention what you can expect from playing the class. Second point I want to get into is the mobility of the Shadow Priest. Nowadays in WoW Shadowlands, mobility of your character is a big thing and a big decision when choosing what class to play. For example, mages have blink, shamans have your wolf, druids have travel form, and etc. So going into it, priests don't have too many class assigned movement abilities. However, when you do talent spec a certain bracket, you do get a boost on your power word shield, which kind of looks like this. I'll get into it here. You can see it does give you your boost for about 3 seconds, and it's on a low cooldown. I think it's about 5-6 second cooldown, so you kind of got to wait for it. One thing I want to get into before we go into the nitty gritty is just talk about the mastery. So mastery of shadow weaving here, your damage is increased by 8% for each shadow word pain, vampiric touch, and devouring plague on the target. These are basically your dots, your 3 main dots that you're going to have on the target, and basically your mastery just kind of upgrades how hard they hit. Stats to look out for when you're on your Shadow Priest is also Intellect is a big one, Critical Strike, and then I would go Mastery and then Haste. If you don't know what those are and you're brand new to WoW and Shadow Priest is your first ever class, Intellect is just kind of your base stat, which is how hard your spells are going to hit on base. Critical Strike is basically how often they're going to hit harder than your base. Mastery, as we've just said, it's going to increase it by a certain percentage, your dots. And then Haste is just how quick you can cast those spells that require spell cast time. So basically, I'm going to get into the rotation here. I'm not going to use my keybinds, however, I'm just going to click. Before we get into that though, I do want to go through the talents that you're going to use because they're going to help in your rotation. So there is 3 talents for every bracket. If you've played World of Warcraft, you know this. First is the level 15 bracket. There's Fortress of the Mind, where Mind Flay and Mind Blast deal 10% more damage, generate 20% more insanity. There's Death and Madness, where if your target dies within 7 seconds after being struck with Shadow Word Death, you get 40 insanity, and the cooldown is reset. And then there's Unfurling Darkness, so after casting Vampiric Touch on a target, your next one within 8 seconds is instant cast and does damage immediately. There's a low cooldown on that though. What you want to do is click Unfurling Darkness because this is going to be your go-to. It just makes it so much easier having to be able to put your dots on 2 targets at once. One is instant cast, so that saves you a lot of time. It's a couple seconds, but when you're trying to stack your damage over time effects on so many mobs, each second counts. We're going to go to the 25 bracket here. This is where you get your speed boost, body and soul. So basically, Power Word Shield and Leap of Faith increase your target's movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds. No matter what, you're going to want to pick this, but I will go in depth for the other ones. You have Sand Lane, passive, which reduces the cooldown of Vampiric Embrace by 45 seconds and increases its healing done by 25%. Don't worry about it. Then you have Intangibility, which is a dispersion talent. So dispersion heals you for 50% of your maximum health over its durations and has 30 seconds reduced cooldown. We'll get into the abilities later on. I'm just running through the best talents so your abilities hit the best they can. 30 level bracket, you start with Twist of Fate, passive. After damaging a target below 35% health, you gain 10% increased damage and healing for 8 seconds. This is pretty good, however, there's a couple better ones that we can choose here. We're going to go to Searing Nightmare here, which is another damage dealing spell. So you need to be in shadow form. Basically does instant damage to enemies around the target, afflicts them with Shadow Word Pain, and if they're already afflicted with that dot beforehand, it just increases the damage by 100%. And this is kind of something that you can only use while doing Mind Sear, which is an AOE ability, which we will get into. This is kind of a tricky talent that you can play around with, but there's always going to be a go-to talent, which is Misery. So Vampiric Touch also applies Shadow Word Pain to the target, which is actually huge. You may not think so, but when I go back to my previous point, talking about how getting as many dots on as many targets as possible is the biggest playstyle aspect of Shadow Priest, I mean it. So basically, with Unfurling Darkness coupled with Misery, you're going to have a instant cast Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain on your second target in a 15-second window, which is just awesome. So we're going to go ahead from that, and we're going to go to the 35 level bracket. This is kind of like your stun areas. So you have Last Word, reduces the cooldown of silence by 15 seconds. Mind Bomb replaces your Psychic Scream. Inflicts the target with a Mind Bomb. After 2 seconds or if the target dies, unleashes an explosion, disorienting all enemies within 8 yards of the target for 6 seconds. Then to the right we have Psychic Horror, which terrifies the target in place, stunning them for 4 seconds. Basically, when you think of the PvP aspect, or literally any mob aspect at the end of the game, you're always going to need stuns. The first two, Last Word and Mind Bomb, basically replace 2 that you already have. So why not just gain a third? That's my thinking on this 35 level bracket, so I always go with Psychic Horror. We're going to go to the 40 level bracket. We're going to start off with Psychic Link. So it's a passive where your Mind Blast deals 50% of its damage to all other targets afflicted by your Vampiric Touch within 40 yards. If you can get a lot of VP up on your targets quickly, I would suggest this. But if you can't, there's other options. Shadow Crash is an AOE spell that you can click. It hurls a bolt of slow-moving shadow energy at the destination, dealing 2021 shadow damage to all targets within 8 yards. So definitely a good ability. However, with Covenant choice, I'm going to show you how you can really just avoid this in general and get the ability for free in the end. What I go for at the 40 level bracket is the Auspicious Spirits talent. It's a passive, and your shadowy apparitions now deal 15% increased damage and generate 2 insanity. We're going to get into what these apparitions are in a second, but you definitely want to click this one for highest DPS outlook. We're going to go into the 45 level bracket. There's a couple here that you can pick. Normally, I would pick Mindbender. However, if you're this early in the game, I would just focus on keeping your current Shadow Fiend that you have, because you don't need to replace it. It's all good. We're going to go to the left here and see Damnation, which is a really damn good effect, if I may add. So the tooltip says it instantly afflicts the target with Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Devouring Plague, which is honestly awesome for single target. However, you know, it's not good for building up insanity, trying to get that burst damage that you've been looking for. So that's always a good second. However, the main one you're going to want to pick is Void Torrent. So it is a channeled ability where a torrent of void energy goes into the target, dealing just under 6,000 shadow damage over 3 seconds. And you gain 60 insanity over the duration, which is the most important thing, is insanity. We're going to go down into the 50 level bracket, and we got Ancient Madness. This is the one that I picked. It's a passive where Void Form increases your critical strike chance by 30% for 15 seconds, reducing 2% every second, which is fine. You have Hungering Void, another passive, causes the target to become vulnerable to the void, basically increases the damage done to the target. Then you have Surrender to Madness, where it basically does a whole bunch of damage to the target, activates your Void Form. You get a whole bunch more insanity while you're in Void Form, but you die. So most non-hardcore players are going to just, you know, avoid these two here and just go for Ancient Madness. This is a good overview of your talents here. These are your main PvE talents. PvP talents are kind of what you want. Depending on your playstyle, you can choose what fits you. I go with Void Origins, where your Void Eruption is now instant cast. Driven to Madness, which is while Void Form is not active, when you're being attacked, it will reduce the cooldown of it by 3 seconds. And then I have Lasting Plague, which increases the duration of your Devouring Plague by 6 seconds. So these are the main talents that you're going to want to pick when you're playing Shadow Priest. And now the big thing I'm going to get into is the actual spells and rotation. So your main couple spells here are going to be Shadow Word Pain, which is your main dot, your Vampiric Touch, which is another dot, and a 50% damage heal that you get per target, which is really nice. You have Mind Blast, which is a little filler. It's kind of like just your main attacking ability. Generates 8 insanity, which is nice. Mind Flay is your single target channeled ability. Generates 18 insanity. Mind Sear is your basically your AOE Mind Flay. So you can see it generates 6 insanity over the duration per target hit. So it's still pretty nice. Then you're going to go down, or you're going to go up to Devouring Plague. So it costs 50 insanity. All the other ones didn't cost anything. This costs 50 insanity, and it afflicts a target with a disease that instantly causes 858 shadow damage, plus an additional just under 1600. And it also heals you as well. So Devouring Plague and Vampiric Touch are your main abilities here. We're going to get into Void Form here, which is kind of like your cooldown, what you want to basically do to do big damage. Void Eruption here, tooltip says releases an explosive blast, basically gives you, I don't know, like an advanced haste when it's coupled with that talent. During Void Form, this ability is replaced by Void Bolt, which is like another Mind Blast, but it is instant cast. One thing I'm going to get into in Void Form is your Mind Blast does have 2 charges, which is very helpful. So I'm just going to put on a target here. With the talents we've applied, this is what it's going to look like. So Vampiric Touch here is Shadow Word Pain, and the next one is Instant Cast here. Basically, you can do your Mind Blast and your Mind Sear, and you can get basically, damage on all the targets. So just base, we're doing 1600, which, is pretty good. I currently do about like 3500, 4000 when I'm in like dungeons or mythic pluses, whatever. As you can see, this is what your Void Torrent looks like. Still a decent amount of damage here. But now you can see we have Devouring Plague available, so we'll see how the damage does with that. Over time, you can see it just ticks away pretty decently, and you get a couple heals here. You can see the character frame. So what it looks like all together here is you're going to Vampiric Touch, I don't know, I think I clicked it twice, that's why it didn't show up. Mind Sear, then you can do your Void Eruption, and basically everything is going to stack on it really nice. You can see these apparitions that are flying away. Those are the shadowy apparitions I talk about. The talent basically makes it so there is more damage that comes from them as they're hitting. You can see me just fooling around. I'm doing just under 3000, just showing you guys what the spells look like, but there's many different ways to couple more damage with that. So to do more damage with that, what I'm going to get into is your basically spell casting haste spells, which will increase what damage you do quickly. So you're going to get into your Power Infusion. It infuses the target with power for 20 seconds, increasing your haste by 25%. Coupled with Void Form, that is amazing because you're basically casting that so quick. You get into your big damage dealing spec super quick, and it helps with getting your damage out a lot faster. What you're going to get into is your Shadow Fiend here, which is basically like a little pet that you have. It's a lot of side DPS that you can just get super quick. And that's pretty much it for the rotation. You have your Shadow Mend for healing, you have your Power Word Shield for healing, and you have your Dispersion. Dispersion is kind of the main thing for your defense, so it reduces all your damage for 75 seconds, increases your movement speed by 50% so you can walk away, and you're immune to all stun effects. So this is really good in PvP. The only downside is you can't attack or heal while you're in this form, which is okay. You're just trying to survive, right? So it's not too bad. What we're going to get into from this is your stun effects. So basically what I have equipped is your Psychic Scream. Basically all enemies in an 8-yard radius, basically 6 seconds stun away. This is broken through damage though. It's kind of like random. Once you get like more better gear and better stats, it's kind of like harder to break it. Then you're going to get into Psychic Horror, which is your talent that you selected. Terrifies the target in place, stunning them for 4 seconds. Then you have Silence, so basically silences them for 4 seconds, can't cast anything. Always a good bet. So these are kind of your defensives here. What I'm going to get into is just one more time how you can see how quickly you're going to be able to do damage from basically stacking Power Infusion, Void Form, Void Torrent, and your abilities. So we're going to do it right here. We're going to put it on every single target. As you can see here, we're going to cause it. Go in Void Eruption. Start that there. See how you have your Insanity. Everything is done. Your shadowy apparitions are going. And, you know, life is good. We're doing just under 4,000 DPS right now, which is awesome. Basically, if I was actually more in tune with it and focused on doing damage, I could definitely crack 4K no problem, but this is just a tutorial, so I'm running you through it. When you're in a huge fight though, your main idea is just to keep up your dots, fill in with Mind Blast whenever you can, Mind Flame, Mind Sear, depending on its single target or AOE, and then Void Torrent whenever it's on cooldown, Void Eruption whenever it's on cooldown, and Devouring Plague whenever it's on cooldown. So what I'm going to get into next is what you can use to heal, which is your Power Word Shields. I've already gone through that a little bit. So it's just a little shield that you get putting on yourself, breaks a bit of the damage. You have Shadow Mend, which is basically your go-to heal. It's like your Flash of Light, but very unholy. So warps an ally in shadows, which heal for 4,420, but it's at a price. So basically they take all damage, they take half the damage over time that they get, but I'm pretty sure with the talent you can just make sure that it doesn't do that. And then we're going to get into Desperate Prayer, which is your instant, heals you for 25% of your health, 10-second cooldown though, or sorry, minute and a half cooldown, but increases your maximum health by 25% for 10 seconds, and instantly heals you for that amount, which is awesome. We're going to get into Vampiric Embrace. It's an instant cast ability. Tooltip says fills you with the embrace of a shadow energy for 15 seconds, causing you to heal a nearby ally for 85% of any single target shadow spell damage you deal. So basically, if you're pulling a big mob and you got a bunch of dots up and you're getting low on health and you have your Desperate Prayer on cooldown, this is what you're going to want to hit, because basically 85% of that damage that you are doing is coming to you, basically on the target that you're focusing on, which is awesome. So if you're ever in a sticky situation, boss fight, this is the definitely go-to heal ability that you want to use. Especially when you don't have anything else that you can use to heal you. Already went over the talents and stuff like that, but I want to go over the Covenant and how it affects how you play. So there's the 4 covenants that you can choose from, and for Shadow Priest, what I can recommend is going Necrolord. So if you don't know, if you haven't finished the campaign or you haven't reached endgame yet, Necrolord gives you 2 abilities. One is a damage over time effect, which we as Shadow Priest love, and the other is a bone shield that you get by just putting on yourself, but the more enemies you kill, the stronger it is. So I'm going to go over them right here. Starting with the shield, it's called Fleshcraft, which is your signature ability. I'll show you what it looks like here. So basically, this is what it does. If there's enemies nearby, it'll absorb their essence and give you an extra bonus shield. So you can see without any enemies, it's just under 5,000 damage absorption. Couple that with Power Word Shields. It's just like a 7,000 shield that you can get, which is pretty nice for defensive abilities. What I'm going to get into now is the damage over time effect it gives you, and I'll show you the rotation afterwards of how amazing this is, but it's called Unholy Nova. So you send it out, 1 minute cooldown, 40-yard range, and it's an explosion of dark energy, infects enemies within 15 yards with Unholy Transfusion, and heals allies for up to 1,800 based on number of targets. Any numbers that I say kind of scale with your stats, so don't worry about it being exactly 1,801. It'll be different for everybody. But basically, it applies Unholy Infusion to every single person in that radius. So it deals up to 4,039 shadow damage based on the number of targets over 15 seconds. So it's awesome. Basically another damage over time ability, and one thing I've noticed is if you just have this up, it also activates your Void Eruption. Basically anybody that has like that radius, it just helps hit a whole bunch. So we're going to get into the big rotation here on how to maximize your DPS, including this ability. So it's just on these 3 targets here, which is just, you know, like standard trash mobs, think of it. So you're going to pop your Power Infusion here, put Vampiric Touch on all of them, have the instant cast, definitely do your Void Torrent, go into Void Eruption form, start your Mind Blast, put Devouring Plague on all of them. You see that the apparitions are moving there. You're going to do your dot, don't forget about that. And you can see we're still doing just about 4,000 DPS. See, we just broke 4,000 there. I was a little quiet. You can kind of maintain that for a little bit, but that's basically the basics of the rotation. You can see when you keep everything up too, that it keeps your dots going a lot longer. So 3,000, oh, that's just for a different one. But basically you can hover around your base just by keeping your dots up, and it's those filler spells, that Mind Blast, the Mind Seer, Mind Flay, Void Torrent, that are just going to basically help you increase that base DPS. Basically, Shadow Priest is a whole lot of fun. You put up your dots everywhere, you're seeing damage everywhere, you're always topping charts, so it's definitely a good class to get into if you're new to the game, because you can get advanced and you can see how dots really affect players, enemy players that is, or even mobs. The big DPS style that you get from it is always a win. This early in Shadowlands, this is basically like some heroic gear. I'm under the heroic item level of 171, and I'm still topping DPS charts with 4,000, 4,500, depending on the boss fight. Honestly, one of the funnest classes I've played in a while. If you saw my videos in the past, I played Mistweaver Monk. I am leveling him. Don't be worried if you want to see a Mistweaver Monk guide. Not too much has changed. But I've been having so much fun with Shadow this expansion so far that he is definitely my new main. This is pretty much it for the Shadow Priest guide when it comes to picking your talents, looking at your play style, picking your stats that you're trying to look out for, and basically your main rotation and how to pop big DPS. Yeah, if you have any comments, any tips, any concerns about basically like playing the Shadow Priest, any questions, leave them below. I will get to them as soon as I can. I don't have that many subscribers at the moment, so I pretty much get to every single one instantly unless I'm sleeping. But hopefully that'll change soon, because I am doing the reminder again of a WoW token giveaway at 250, 500, and 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you guys could all subscribe, leave a like, hit the bell, you'll know when I upload. I'll have more WoW content coming in the future. If you haven't seen my last video, it is a gold guide where I made 90,000 gold per hour just doing skinning. You can see here that these are the gold for all of my characters here. I'm just under 500,000 gold just from the beginning of this expansion alone, which is an amazing achievement, I think, because I'm going to be able to fund these WoW tokens for the giveaway just in like a mere couple hours. So if you want to make gold, don't know how to make gold, this is a super easy way. Check my last video. I'll put it in the description as well. But if not, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. This has been your boy Big Arc, and I'll see you next time.